Hi, everybody. Welcome to Design Conversations presented to you by Home Publishings Group and My Design Studio, hosted by
Yasmin Goodwin
and
and
me, Emmanuel Bellavo. Nice to see you. All right, so
nice
today
to see you
Yasmin's
too.
coming to you. Yasmin's coming to you live from the offices at My Design Studio, and me, I'm here in my home office. So welcome, and this is the fifth in an 8-part series on the impact of COVID-19 on the design industry.
Yes. So how have you been? How has your week been, Emmanuel?
I've been great, thank you. I've been really good. I've been very, very good.
I think very busy too.
Yeah, no, it's been a busy week. In fact, today I had 4 client visits prior to coming to this session, so it's been a bit of rushing and running to get here. Yeah,
Yes.
taking on a new condo this morning, and we went to template some stone. We had some new doors going into one project, and then referencing a custom steel insert for a fireplace today, so that was fun. And now just settling in to get this done. So
yes,
here we are. We're episode 5.
Episode 5.
Who do we need to thank today for this being possible?
Yes, well, today wouldn't have been possible without our sponsors, Lixil, which is American Standard, Growy, DXV, and some great plumbing brands, which we're going to talk about a little bit more. Thank you to Kentwood, Constantino, and Fisher and Paykel, and of course, HPG Home Publishing Group, which is now NextHome. Congratulations to them. And we look forward to a good relationship moving forward and working with them as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, we have been discussing this for a while now, this episode that's been coming up.
Yes.
It's been a topic that's been in the back of our minds. My dad's 96, and
my mom is 82.
There you go. And so, you know, my parents live in New Brunswick. I don't live close by. They're currently still living in their home. And there's always this conversation of, you know, where is the best place for them and how do we deal with that? And of course, the implications of the physical environment they live in. How do we design around that? So I know we've been talking about multi-generational living for a time, and here we are, time for that episode.
Right. Yes, for sure. I think it's a very timely, and I do believe that with the whole situation with COVID, which has encouraged families to move in with each other during the lockdown so they can look after and keep each other safe, it's probably highlighted some deficiencies, physical deficiencies inside the home, but also showed some wonderful advantages of having our families together for conversation, for our young people, and just for general, you know, family living together. So I think it's a good thing. And we're very pleased to have 2 wonderful guests with us who are going to share more knowledge about this topic and things you should consider. And shall I introduce our first guest?
Yeah, why don't we jump into it?
Okay, so our first guest is Linda Kafka. Welcome, Linda, with Boundless Energy. Linda Kafka is the trade resource for the residential interior design industry. She is a subject matter specialist, an inclusive design advocate, and one of Canada's go-to experts in living in place and wellness. Linda is the principal of the Living in Place Network, an international community of professionals focused on living and aging in place. She is the driving force behind Canada's newly launched Livable Environment Conference, which is happening on October 28, 29, and 30th. And it's all going to be done virtually with people from all over the world. So it's very super exciting. And the host of the Livable by Design podcast, where she interviews global industry professionals from a built environment in order to share their expertise with their listeners. So awesome. Thank you, Linda, for being here.
Thank you.
Welcome, Linda. Good to see you.
Thank you. That's a lot. That's a lot. I didn't realize
but
how
it's
much
worth it. It's important.
To follow up that with Michael, here we go. All right, Michael's design philosophy is the ever-evolving relationship with the spaces we spend our time in. For over 10 years, Michael has successfully applied his design sensibility and happily flexed his creative muscles as an agency creative director, making TV commercials. He's a regular contributor to CityLine, as well as many other interior design publications. Michael, welcome to Design Conversations. It's great to have you here.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So it's been some time now. We've been in COVID. Yasmin and I've been talking about this. There's been a necessity for people to perhaps live together in confined spaces, unlike they ever had before. It's probably created conversations they would not normally have because there's always this thing where, well, we'll do it later, we'll do it later. Before we jump into that though, how have either of you been managing yourselves and your businesses throughout the pandemic?
So for me, not much has changed because I have been working from home since I think the beginning of 2017. I do go between two places, so a little bit more challenging in that. And I've had to make, in my second location, I've had to make a makeshift office, and that does not have any ergonomics in it. So I've got, you know, all those issues that a lot of us are complaining about. But actually during the time, it's been pretty good. I don't have too many complaints.
Great. And Michael, how are you making out?
It's interesting. I actually just expanded probably about 4 months before COVID hit. Opened up at 5 months before COVID hit, and I opened up my own office, and we got equipment, and bringing some staff in, and then I actually had someone starting literally the day of the lockdown. So
wow.
Wow.
So I've been going back and watering my plants for the last 4 months,
Right.
keeping them alive, but moved equipment back home and it went back to the old working from home and satellite stuff. So we've been in there a few times, but it was just the timing was a little unfortunate, but that's, you know, everybody's story, right?
Yeah. And as far as your client load is concerned, how were projects stopped for you? Did you were able to keep on going? Because obviously, you know.
Yeah, we were extremely busy actually leading up, which is why we were expanding and opening the office. And then within 3 days, just I would say 90% of my workload just stopped, and what appeared to have vanished because nobody was sure when anything was coming back. But over the last few weeks, I would say 3 weeks, things have been, familiar voices have been calling me back and saying, oh, remember that, we're kind of picking up. We're not back up to 100%. Some things are just, you know, some people, their financial situations changed, maybe they rethought their ideas, but definitely it was a dramatic stop where we were just really quiet. Gave us a great opportunity to reorg. Basically, we introduced some new software, some little housekeeping for the first 6 weeks.
I think everybody took that opportunity to do some housekeeping, right? Like just to thin things out and really focus on what really needs to be channeled and to create some higher efficiency in your business for sure. That's great. So we have a big topic at hand here to go over. You know, Yasmin has been chomping at the bit to do this episode. This is something she absolutely loves. Linda, you and I have
very passionate about this topic.
You and I have chatted about this stuff in the past. I know you're really big on this too. So let's just get into this. Let's talk multi-generational living and perhaps some of the glaring issues that have popped up during COVID.
Great.
All right. So why don't we try this, Linda? I'll just address you in the first question here. Was multi-generational living something that was ever popular in Canada?
I think prior to the 50s, it was the norm. If you think, and if we, probably most of your listeners weren't even born then, but if you think back to that time period, you know, a lot of farming happening in the Canadian, you know, in Canada, a lot of families staying in the same household, helping with the chores, you know, supporting the elderly. It wasn't really until the 50s and 60s that we started to see a shift, and that younger, you know, 19-year-old was wanting to leave home and not to return. So from the 50s onward, it really wasn't popular until now. We're seeing a big change for several reasons.
Got it. I think too, there was a time, wouldn't you say that World War II was a little bit of that? Like my dad, I think he was in his early 20s when they called up to World War II, and he left. And one of his younger brothers got to stay home and manage the farm, and then eventually got the farm and then stayed there to look after his parents. I think that's where you sort of see that multi-generational thing happening too.
Yeah, and you know, and my family's from Europe, so it's very common. It never really phased out over there. You found a lot of or in my case, my family members, the grandparents, the great grandparents lived in the same household. If they didn't live right directly in the same house, they lived in a house on the property or adjacent or attached to the main home. So it was very common for a lot of people and in their cultures to live multi-generational. I think it was just, big city life, the 50s, the 60s, things were happening, culture shifts, more women entering the workforce. We had that hippie era. I think it was independence. I'm out of here. I got my own way of living, and I'm not living under the same roof. So we saw that change.
So it's kind of interesting that it's gone full circle now, where people not only are rethinking about living together now because of necessity of the pandemic, but also because they appreciate their existing communities and don't necessarily want to move away. And that's created opportunity to modify the existing residents to accommodate staying in that community.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I think that it definitely, it's interesting because just even in the interior design industry alone, we see things coming full circle, and and so it's not surprising. There are so many benefits to multi-generational. I think people are looking at it through a different lens today, especially after COVID, and really saying, what, why did we really abandon that, or why didn't we look at that sooner? And so I think there, and when you look at the issue at hand and the benefits, it's really
So when you're talking about multi-generational living, just to break it down, that's when you're seeing someone is living with their parents and with their children. Is that the idea, what we're defining it as, just for those who are listening in?
Do you know what? There's a variety of different scenarios. That would probably be the most common. So you've got young families. You might have young families with their elderly parents. You may have, adult. In my case, you might find me as an adult as an empty nester with my kids wanting to come back, have a space within my home, and my 94-year-old mother. So you could actually have those adults within that space. But a lot of times it's the young kids with the seniors, and there's a good support system there.
Okay, and the obvious benefits to multi-generational living, I think you just mentioned, it's having seniors and some younger kids. What are some of those benefits that might not be so obvious?
Well, first, the obvious is I want to just touch on is the fact that it's a cost savings when you think about it. Daycare in Canada, I think you're on average about $15,000 a year. If you're having to live independently in a retirement home, you're at minimum about $3,500 a month. I think my mom's around $6,000 a month because she needs extra services. So right away, that goes without saying. The family network, the family support, the help, the caregiving, there's so many benefits in that. The sharing the knowledge, from that senior aged family member to the younger one. There's so many different values coming together as that dynamic, that family dynamic, having reduced isolation. So there's numerous benefits to having a multi-generational living.
And that lends into quality of life, right? Like just being around loved ones, it's healthier, you heal quicker. There's so much other advantage. Yeah, the quality of life is a huge benefit.
Huge factor, absolutely. Yeah. Especially in the isolation that we've just gone through, right? Being able to be with family, bounce ideas off then. I think there's something to be said. They say that, one of the saddest things about seeing people having to retire at 65 out of the workforce, I often hear people say, it's good to have those people around as mentors to young people coming up, because they can pass that information on to them so they can learn things. And so having grandparents around young children is great, because although they're not responsible for primary care, they certainly can provide wisdom to the children. At least that's the way I think. That's what my mother told me anyway. I don't know.
And also I'd like to add that, people are living healthier longer. So even though you may be a grandparent, you still have a lot of vital energy to get down and have that active lifestyle with a younger part of the family too. And I think those are precious moments that I know, like, I missed in my life as my grandparents passed away early on, and so I didn't get that, but I did have the benefit of one older lady who lived with us, and she was I mean, the memories that I have from her lessons of life, I'll never forget. So it was really wonderful that way.
Actually, I love what you just said there, the lessons of life. That's a good.
Yeah, no, that is very good. What I was going to say was now we get the texture that we get from living with multi-generational. So we get the impact on community, we get the impact on family that there is. What's the impact really though on the home, the house, the building, the design? How do you take something that's baby proof and make it, do we say senior proof? Is that right? Do I get to say that?
Everybody.
Senior friendly. Senior friendly.
Senior friendly.
Yeah, exactly. There we go.
Yeah, that's very good.
I think you bring up a really good point, Emmanuel, and I'm going to bring it down to Linda and Michael, but the important thing of all of this is to change the way we talk about it as well, the language that we use. And it doesn't have to be for senior or older people, because there's a lot of young people who have physical challenges as well. And if it's safe for one person, then it's safe for everyone. And I think let's just take the stigma out of the language, and let's talk about how to make it beautiful, how to make it safe and usable for everyone that can take advantage of it. So what have you seen in your own designs? I know you shared with me when we spoke a little while back about a bathroom that you were designing, Michael, and you incorporated some things that made it safer.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few projects now, and I bring it up more actively than ever before, where there's things that it shouldn't be. We're trying not to look at them as compromises anymore. You're not doing it because you're making a compromise for someone. This is actually going to be beneficial for everybody. So I'm a big component. I did in my house as well is curbless showers. I mean,
essential.
Oh, you have to find a reason not to do it, in my mind, because it should be what you do, because it's great for everybody. It looks great. It opens up our opportunities when it comes to actually tiling, so style, to create vignettes. I mean, a lot of luxury hotels have them, right? And you're walking, oh my gosh, I could walk into the shower. So there's an appeal to it, aesthetic appeal to it that way. Sense of.
Is it hard to retrofit an existing shower into a curbless shower?
It is a big job, yes, because it requires you lowering your floor line, right? Because you now have to bring the drain down. You have to reposition your drain, right? So you're actually paying. So you're actually opening up the ceiling and the floor, and you're lowering. So it's a big job, but the dramatic effect that it creates is incredible visually. What we can actually use to make the showers better, and then obviously anybody can access this, right? And it gives. The reason it makes such a dramatic effect visually, because you now are not isolating a space to where you have a shower. So your shower looks twice the size, even though it's the exact same size, which is really great. And you now revisit the need for glass and where you need to put the glass when you don't have a curb. Before you have a curb, you just run the glass across and you put a door, and this is what you just did. You don't have a curb there. Well, why am I bringing the glass all the way across now? My water doesn't go that far, so maybe I just need a glass sheet, right? So it just really begins the thought process to reimagine that bathroom. And other things like grab bars and things of that nature.
Speaking of
grab bars have also, sorry, Emmanuel.
Yeah, I was just going to say, let's talk about grab bars for a second.
They're gorgeous now.
That's great to hear, because I just looked at a condo we're doing right now. The condo's a 30-year-old building, mostly elderly people living in the building. So when we went into it a year ago, of course, it was full of grab bars. And so my new clients, although in their early 60s, looked at it and were like completely offended by these grab bars. They wanted them out, right? So we got at the place, and now there are no grab bars in there. And, and by their own admission, they want to, as they said, leave their feet first. So tell me more about grab bars. What are our options?
Well,
but there's so many. Yeah, Linda, share with us.
Well, I was going to say, actually, if you're familiar with obviously with the building code, section 9, it was just upgraded in January. So, and it references section 3. Michael, you'd know about this. So reinforcements behind the walls, the shower closet, the shower, the tub area, those areas now have to be reinforced for future use of grab bars. But why are we waiting? You know, typically a lot of them look very institutional. You know, go into any commercial space, that was what was being put into the home. And now there's several products. When I was down at KBIS, the Kitchen and Bath Show in January, it was incredible the amount of beautiful grab bars that were coming out, not just in, you know, for like towel bar with, you know, below with the grab bar on top. We were seeing surfaces that were changing in terms of color. There was a rubberized feeling on some of the grab bars, or finish on the grab bars. We were seeing them in teak. You know, they're just absolutely stunning. They don't,
yes,
they're not
very,
your
very
grandmother's grab bar anymore.
No, they're not.
You know,
Grandmother's
and I think a lot of people have that.
Yeah,
I know they do. And a lot of people have the stigma thinking, oh, I'm, you know, I'm ageism, you know, that ageism, or I'm old if you install a grab bar. But, you know, children can use them just as easily as other people within the bathroom. We all know that bathrooms are the #1 area in the home for falls. And if it's not something that you need or feel you need, think about your visitors. And Michael, I'm sure you must be installing, I'm sure you're seeing the installation of grab bars or the interest in them now.
Yeah, or to your point, I'm putting the supports in the walls for them, because some people are resistant to them. So I said, well, so you know what? Let's just put the supports. Let's put the 2x4s. So that we have the option, because later on we don't want to rip open the wall, right? So let's just do that. And then when I can introduce something fashionable and stylish, oh, that looks great. I could put my robot, I could put whatever. Then people are a little bit more open. But again, if you don't put it on, put the support there, because then it's just a matter of drilling, right?
Yeah.
And there's something that COVID should have really introduced to all of our psyche, is that life changes like that for everybody. So I mean, I'm battling with I'm a pretty healthy guy. I work out, and then I got a pinched nerve in my back, and so I sit too long. I'm in pain and moving around. So I move more gingerly now, and I have all stretch routines that I got to do everything. It's dramatic. If I'm gonna drive for a long time, like, oh my gosh, I got to bring a back support. And it's not because of age, and that's just dramatically changed. So what if it went one step further? What if I now needed that, right? What if life can just change at any particular time? Do I want to rip up my shower now just to put in a bar? Like, so these are, or to put the curb back. So to do these things proactively is not only smart, but it's also going to be very stylish, and it doesn't have to be a hindrance, right? But we should be accepting these moves.
Right. Even they have very beautiful, okay, this is not a very sexy thing to say, but the toilet paper holder is also a grab bar. And it looks terrific. And you can put your weight on it. I know I've lost a few toilet paper holders off the wall as people grab.
They're the first to go.
They are towel bars and that. Okay.
Yeah,
sorry, Linda, go ahead.
I was going to say you have soap dishes, but you know what's really interesting is that I'm starting to see innovation with the grab bars from the design community, and that's what's great about this profession is you know, how do you seamlessly integrate these types of products into a home so it doesn't scream that somebody with a disability or somebody that's aging lives within this generational home. And there was one design I saw that I thought was quite smart, where they actually had parallel grab bars that went around the bathroom, 2 heights. And I thought aesthetically it was very attractive looking. It didn't look like a grab bar at first. And then when you think about it, or you realize the reason they put it in there was for that senior person, but it's also for that small child, because that small child might not be able to reach up higher, you know, to the higher one. So there's innovation happening in the way the design is, and how people are incorporating them into the bathroom.
Okay. Hey, we have Michael, before you jump into that, do you want to jump into some notes here? We do have a poll question we want to put up on the screen. Poll question number 1. Yeah, Joelle, we have a time for that?
Okay, I can say it. I don't know. Joelle said she has a delay.
We have a delay on the call. There we go. So the question is, are you currently or will you soon be living as a multi-generational family? Please select 1. Yes, my parents live with me. Yes, my adult children live with me. Yes, my parents and my adult children live with me. No, or not currently available. So I guess we don't get to vote, guys, but
no, I was just looking at that.
Listening does. Okay, so every chance to answer that. And of course, we'll go through the answers of these poll questions later on at the end of the episode, and we can kind of review who's been listening and what's currently going on in people's lives as it relates to multi-generational living. Now, Michael, you had a comment. I want you to finish that comment. Go ahead.
Right. So another thing that I'm doing in bathrooms now, again, that doesn't look like a compromise, is instead of just putting shower heads, I'm putting everything on shower bars, so handhelds. And so, for example, I'm doing a condo downtown right now. We have 2 bathrooms, and even in the bathtub, it's just a shower bar mounted with a handheld right where the shower head could be. But of course, now it's flexible because it's on a cord. So if someone's going in there who's short or stuff, they can drop it. So we don't need to have this stationary shower head anymore. Like, why do we have to have this thing that's you can't reach, you can't turn it, do anything with? So I totally omit, either I have both. So if it's a bigger shower, I'll put a shower head, maybe like a rain head, which is pretty popular right now. But if it's just the one in a bathtub, then all I'm going to have is the bar with the handheld is center, and you can leave it there, but it also can be positioned for a lot lower for someone who can't reach, etc.
That makes sense.
And this is something that people don't think of doing, and I often try to incorporate when I do these bathrooms, is you can actually put the valve, closer to the entrance as opposed to the typical spot where the shower
directly
goes.
under.
So it makes it easier for a caregiver to turn it on, as opposed to getting wet and inside. But also, a lot of these bars can also be grab bars, by the way.
Yeah, sure.
So it's not just the post to slide the handheld. And then consider putting the handheld near where you're going to the seat. So if someone is sitting down, they can turn it on, they can sit on the seat, and then they can shower themselves. And that's useful for everyone, whether it's a child or an older person or even a pet. So it's very handy idea. And I learned that by doing that CAPS course, and
which
and I've reused that.
We're both certified. Yeah, we're both certified in that. I just want to remind people too that grab bars don't necessarily always have to be horizontal in the shower. I like to, you need to think if that person falls, they need to be able to reach up and pull themselves up. So that vertical positioning is also an important one, because often we see them in the magazines. They're always, usually typically horizontal.
So let's say you're someone now who's approaching requiring these items in your home, and do you go out and buy a new home with that in it, or should you stay and retrofit your existing home? What are some of the advantages to retrofitting an existing home versus buying new?
Well, I want to jump in and say that Stats Canada did a survey, I think it was back in 2017, and I think they spent about, what was the number? It was something like $57 billion on home modifications so that people could have multi-generational. I think from their report, they were finding that more people were modifying their home for multi-generation versus just doing interior design changes or just upgrades. So we're seeing a huge increase, and Stats Canada is providing information. If you Google it, you can get it if that's important to you. But we are seeing more people wanting to modify their home as opposed to building brand new. And why? It's because we love our backyards, we love our neighborhood, we're close to amenities. Think about it, as you age, you don't want to be too far away from your doctors or your dentist or your grocery store that you're familiar with. So if you've in real estate, we always say location. That is so important, especially as you age, having that walkable. So a lot of modifications are happening versus, right now, versus completely brand new builds. I don't know, Michael, if you're the same.
And I would think the last thing you want to do is learn a new neighborhood later in life, right? You kind of remember things all easier.
Yeah.
One of my projects that really wasn't dramatically impacted by COVID was a new build. So I had a client approach me over a year and a half ago with just that. He was moving his mother-in-law into the house, so there's going to be 3 generations in the house. And his mother-in-law is very used to, she grew up in Russia actually, and was used to living in a very small confinement, having her own cooking, wanted to be pretty independent. So she just didn't want to move in and have to kind of rely on them. So it was very important for them when they were renovating their house, come up with the ideas, is to create independent living for on the first floor for his mother-in-law. So they were working with another company trying to renovate this house, and they got frustrated and they asked me to kind of intervene, and it was pretty much a Frankenstein. And I said, okay, well, I can clean this up a little bit, but like, like it's not going to be nice what you're trying to do. I said, would you consider starting from scratch? Let me present you a brand new house using a little bit more of a footprint. And they said, sure. So I designed their full house with all these considerations in place because they had unique needs, right? Including in her living space, she wanted a little sink with a hot plate, right? Like, where are they going to find a house on the market with that? It's just not going to exist. They have to build it. So I designed their whole house from scratch. We built in a builder, and we brought in a builder, and we built them a new home. So we just got them in during COVID, actually. So we were going through all that, but so much little details that became more of a design of needs and multi-personalities, which is really interesting here because we talk about quality of life. The reason they're bringing their mother-in-law to live with them is so she can be happy, so she can have a quality of life. So her tastes were so important for her space, her washroom. Like, her washroom feels very different than theirs, right? And her living room feels very different than theirs. The color scheme is different. I was more or less designing 2 homes in a 2,000 square foot plan, so it was really challenging, right? And then they were also thinking about 15 years, 20 years from now, if this need is changed, what can happen? So we make sure we ran all the electrical and plumbing really off to the point so that we can open up this wall and make this a big living room, right? So we were thinking layers and layers on this house evolving with them, but for right now, being the best of both worlds. So there was a lot of unique challenges and had so much to do with their personality, right? Of 2 different generations, people who wanted to live so differently. The only thing we couldn't do is give her own laundry. We just ran out of space, right? But we had to accommodate so much, right? And also his son was there too. So that was the ultimate experience for me when it comes to the multi-generational living.
I think we're going to see a lot more of that, because you don't want to lose your independence. You don't want to lose your style. You know, and I was just thinking that's really an interesting floor plan, because although they had the option to open it, they could also use that as a rental unit down the road 100%. Too. And that's what we're seeing. Yeah.
We gave her own entrance on the side. You know, she smokes, right? She smokes, so we actually gave her a unique little. Her patio is kind of like a 4-season room. It has windows, so she can actually go outside on her deck and smoke away from the family, so that it doesn't expose anybody else, with her own ventilation. So all those little details is impossible to find on the market. So in that sense, they had to build what they want, and this for them is going to be their forever home, right?
Do you think that?
I was going to say, think about the real estate resale value for that property is incredible. 80% of the homes in Canada need to be modified right now for our aging population. And there's such there's virtually no inventory like the one you just described. So that's going to be a real easy sell for them if they decide to sell it.
That was actually my question. What do you think the impact is on resale value on a home when you have it prepped multi-generationally? Is that kind of like the same idea when someone says, well, we have a rental suite in the house as well? Like, how do you compare those two?
100%. I remember when I first got into the investment side of it and putting in rental apartments, and I had my first one. And when you're able to put something on the market that is soundproof, that is recently renovated, that has all these things that most other people's homes don't, there's no comparison. You can ask for top dollar. You get a different type of clientele who cares about these things. There's no real competition. So you get to push that envelope, because when you're marketing, obviously a good agent is going to market with that. Forget the hardwood. We're talking soundproof. We're talking separate.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So it becomes invaluable. Their location was amazing too, because they're right off Park Lawn in Etobicoke. So everything about it makes this a gem if and they decide to ever sell.
Probably all the things that we were complaining about during COVID. The lack of especially adaptable spaces, the noise between the rooms. So, you know, you know, absolutely, that's going to be such a great selling feature versus it's got stained glass and hardwood and, you know, all that. That's not as important anymore. It's important, but not as important as what you've just described. So
what I hear is what's a theme that I've been hearing, we're in episode 5. I'm starting to hear that when we have the conversation as interior designers about form versus function, I feel like COVID-19 has really, really made us take a hard, good, long look at function over form.
For sure.
One of the questions we often ask people is, what in your home did you find to be the least valuable piece of furniture in your home? You know, and it feels like people, whether online or offline, say, "Oh, I have this item that I just don't need anymore. Like, why do I even have it?" Right? Like, I spent all this money
Get
on
rid of
X,
it.
don't need to get rid of it. I
Taking a
prefer
valuable space.
you know, like,
and the dining room table has become the most valuable piece
100%.
now. We never used to sit together very often, and now it's like everybody sits there now.
So if you are someone who is building homes, if you are a person who is perhaps flipping homes, can you recommend anything that they should absolutely do to at least steer a home into the direction of being available for someone who is multi-generational living?
Yeah, I want to say you absolutely have to look at a bedroom and a full-size bathroom, full as opposed to a powder room. So you want that bathroom, you want that main bedroom, you want it to be accessible. But I think what's really important if you're doing multi-generational,
you're saying on the first floor, right?
Yeah,
on the main floor.
On the main floor. But I think having your independence and your privacy, if you are going to be building that multi-generational home, I think that's probably number one. That is so important to not feel like the parents are there as built-in babysitters, or or that the parents should not rely on the family members as their personal butler. And so I think you really have to take design with independence in mind if you're doing multi-generational. So that's something that Michael, you demonstrated it with that project you worked on, giving her complete space, including a smoking area.
Yeah, small fridge, a little hot plate, that screams independence, right? I mean, for the big family dinner, she'll join them, but if she wants something quick for breakfast, she doesn't have to come out.
Doesn't have to come out.
Given all our experience in working on homes in Toronto, a lot of lots are only 25 feet wide and less, right? So how can we really position ourselves having a separate space on a main floor when really your footprint on a lot of homes are 20 foot by, say, 40 foot footprint? It's difficult to put all that on that main floor. So, if you are offering homes for sale on the market and you are flipping, what's the best way to negotiate that? Because I think that putting an in-law suite in the basement just doesn't work.
No.
Right? And then putting it, so is it doing the addition to the house? But most additions today end up being family rooms. Is there something you've seen that worked well?
And I think also, if budget allows, the pneumatic elevators has become a great solution because they're not as expensive. If you're going to be adding or modifying, you can put them in for around 40, and they don't need a subfloor support. So that might be one solution if you can incorporate it into your new design. And then you can go, it doesn't matter if they're on the main floor, if it's 25 feet, I think, then you can still do your kitchen and your living space, and then the next floor can be designated to whomever.
Right.
Is that one idea?
Yeah, that's absolutely a great idea. As a matter of fact, the reason we purchased, so we have another property out in Port Dover that I was spending most of my time in, and we purchased that because it had an elevator. The problem is, and this is just, kind of an FYI, if you're going to be modifying in that, make sure that the doors are wide enough for people to access. So I'll give you an example. The elevator, if ever we had a mobility issue and had a wheelchair, we could access all 3 floors. The problem is when the builder was designing the master bedroom ensuite, because of where the tub was located, so it had a curbless shower, a tub, and the dual sinks in the toilet. Where the tub was located, the door could only be 24 inches. So if I'm in if I need a 36-inch opening to really come through with a wheelchair, that's going to make it impossible for me to use that bathroom and that master bedroom. So elevators are showing up in homes. I think Brantford right now, Brampton. It's Brampton is one of the hot spots for adding elevators into the homes. So I'm hearing from the various elevator companies that's a really big area, and there's a lot of renovations with elevators being put in. But you're exactly right, Yasmin. The elevator is becoming more popular and dropping in price.
Right.
So
And what I've done now, that scenario you present is pretty challenging. The house that I did was just under 2,000 square feet finished, so it was pretty small. But that one is still really challenging. But I have converted dining rooms or those formal living rooms into bathrooms for people. So a lot of people have that room that is just not high purpose, high used. That's something you can consider, is turning that into a bathroom. I just had clients move in 3 weeks ago for a massive renovation we did in their house, and we did that. So we added a full bathroom thing, because eventually they realized they're going to be moving downstairs. And they've been in this house for 30 years. They're not going anywhere. It's a big house, but they're going to be downstairs. So we created their dream future bedroom downstairs. Right now it could be a guest room, right? But we created that with that extra space that they don't really need.
We're seeing a lot more bedrooms showing up on the main floor, a lot. But when we're talking about the renovations for the home too, I think it's really important to also look at access right from the front door and how we're getting into the front door. Because Yasmin, when you said earlier about that stigmatism of the aging and all that and people with disabilities, the last thing you want to do is in a multi-generational home is have a ramp at the front of the house, because grandma needs to get into the house, and that's a stigma in itself. So we're looking at the hardscaping out there. We're looking at, for the new builds, do we need as many stairs? I know we need some type of a step up for to pass for the building code, but we got to start looking at the entrance, so what we call visitability. And so how are we getting into the homes too? So I've had this conversation with numerous architects in Toronto. There will be some properties that absolutely you will never be able to modify. It's better just to move. But if you can, and I think it's speaking to the right people that have knowledge. Michael, you certainly have the experience. You can bring occupational therapists onto the team to talk about how people maneuver through spaces. And so there's a lot of support and information out there that can really help you, whether you're a trade professional or you're a consumer, to create that forever home.
Do you hear about relationships between interior designers and builders and therapists working together to develop a space for a client?
Yep. As a matter of fact, the conference in the fall will have those particular professionals in there together, because they are starting to work together. I actually have a decorator that works up in Halliburton, and she works with a personal support worker because they know the routines of particular clients. And so she's learning, how people move within a space. Others will work with occupational therapists. Others will work with people that have graduated from gerontology. So I think it's important to have that team of people with that knowledge to call upon. And especially, if you've got clients that have progressive conditions, you absolutely want to have somebody that's professional, like an OT or PSW on your team. They can help you immensely, from the color choices to the lighting choices to the floor finishings to the layout. They really can be a strong member of your team.
Yeah, because go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
No, I was going to say, because there's lots of little details, and Linda, you started touching on them: color and light, the separation between rooms. How's that occur? A lot of people have transitions that are slightly lower and they're awkward. So a wheelchair might be an extreme, but there's so much degrees in between there with just mobility. It's a little bit more challenging, where you're not picking your feet up as high, and that's a tripping hazard. So making sure floors are level, or if you can't level your floor, identifying those transition strips so that they're visible. The type of lighting you have, color, just so much little things that go into making a house a lot more user-friendly. Let's just call it that the average person is never going to notice, right? The type of handles you have, like opening a door with a knob, or opening
no, we don't want the knobs.
It's
right. People with fine motor skills,
Exactly. So let's take those out of the conversation when we're redesigning, and let's use stuff where I always tell clients, I love it, but I'm not going to let you approve a handle until you actually can wrap your hand around it and tell me you got it comfortably. Because there's some beautiful ones that you can't even get your fingers under, right? Now, how are you going to open these drawers, right? So there's details.
I think there's also taking into consideration not just the people that live there, but people that come into your home. So for instance, I had a really interesting conversation with a paramedic, and she said to me, you'd be surprised how difficult it is sometimes to get the stretcher into some of these older homes. So I can attest to that. I have a 1953 bungalow. The hallways are extremely narrow, and there's no way they're getting a stretcher into the room. Now, I don't want to, design a home based on, can the paramedic get in or not? But think about that. Think about the delivery person that's bringing in your appliances, or the person that's delivering your furniture. I mean, it might be that pregnant, individual and having to carry that laundry basket. As the more times we have to shift our body to accommodate ourselves through spaces, the more challenging it is. And I've always believed that our spaces should adapt to us over our lifespan versus us adapting to our space, you know. And if you really take a look at how you yourself have lived during COVID and how you've had to modify your own behavior to access spaces or to live within the space, you know, you'll start to see that that we need to change and design our spaces, not from a aesthetic perspective, but more from that functional perspective.
And so, actually, you don't have to sacrifice one for the other. Frankly, you can,
exactly.
You know, you can still make it look fantastic.
Well, that's the job of a good designer, right? Is to kind of take that problem.
So
and make it
always use a professional.
Always use a professional.
Always hire a professional.
Don't try this alone. Don't try this at home by yourself.
No, you will make a lot of mistakes if you. There's so much to consider when we talk about you know, people that are tall in stature, short in stature, people that are size, smaller, weighted people, ergonomics within your space, your multi-level counter heights. There is so many. Michael, you were so right when you said the details. And so if you're taking this on your own, you're going to have a lot of challenges, and you're going to discover only after the fact the mistakes that you've made.
So we've been discussing multi-generational living. The assumption is that we have parents, then we have children. What about people who don't have children? How does preparing for multi-generational living, how does that impact them?
That's actually an excellent question, because there's a lot of people that don't have family, and so what we're seeing is the co-housing becoming more popular. And so you're seeing individuals that might be of the same age or might not be. My best friend, her and I have talked about co-housing since 1989. She's I think she's at least 12 years older than me. So I kind of, you know, she hit senior before I did. So we kind of checked the boxes off on multi-generational. But I think that we're going to start to see more of that co-housing within that. So sharing the expenses, pooling your money to be able to have that forever home, be able to renovate it, share the amenities. I don't know if that's, you know, if you're seeing the same thing out there, but it's definitely on the rise, the co-housing.
Well, I would say that the co-sharing is definitely, this is another topic, and I won't go on another tangent on it, but obviously the cost of housing in Toronto has actually forced a lot of people to get into co-housing scenarios, whether it's through laneway development or whether it's through creating duplexes or triplex with existing bigger homes. Multiple families coming in together to bid on one property is definitely something that's happening in Toronto, for sure. We do have a poll question number 2. I want to get to that. After we do poll question number 2, Yasmin's going to talk a bit about our sponsors, and then we're going to jump into our favorite segment, which we call our rapid fire questions. So before we jump into that, let's go over our next poll question. All right, have you or are you thinking about modifying your living space to accommodate multi-generational family living? Yes, I have modified my living space. Yes, I'm thinking about modifying my living space. No, I will not be modifying my living space, and not available. So this is a great question. So it gives us an idea of whether or not people are going to be staying in their homes, if they are looking forward to staying there, or perhaps they're going to downsize into something, or whatever the different intentions are. And Yasmin,
yes, so
why don't
I'm
we
just
jump
going to
into
quickly
our sponsors?
Yeah. So special thanks to our sponsors, Constantino, Fisher & Paykel, Lixo Group, Kentwood, through Metropolitan Floors. Thank you for pivoting with us when we were going to be doing in person, and we're now doing this wonderful series. And this week we're kind of going to highlight the Lixo group of products. If you are considering updating your home, kitchen, and bathrooms, please take a moment to discover the smart and beautiful design plumbing fixtures from Lixo group of products, which include Growy, American Standard, Max, and DXV. There are many products that are touch or motion activated. It makes using the products even easier for all. And we've put up 2 brochures from the company there, which talk about the spalets and the touchless faucets and all kinds of shower solutions. So please take a moment to take a look at that. And thank you.
Thank you to our sponsors. All righty. So we are now into our next round, which we call our rapid fire question round. Our desire here is to throw some questions at you. Both you weigh in really quickly on what you might do or not do, and then we'll get through as quick as we can. Now, when we get through this, Joelle's going to come on and tell us some of the questions that have come in from the participants who've been watching, and I'll give you a chance to go over those and get some answers to those. All right, so first question, and we can relate this back to multi-generational living, and it could also just be your personal favorite, because obviously, you know, there's all kinds of design work that we all do. First question on the list is favorite room to update?
Bedroom.
Okay.
Can I cheat and say the basement?
Yeah,
Because I get to do it all.
Yeah.
That's a big room.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on the degree. I would say a bathroom. It's really exciting because it's so interactive. So I'd say bathroom.
Okay, I'd say a kitchen.
Great. I'd say kitchen. I'd say kitchen.
I went with
just because I love to cook.
I mean, I went with bedroom because the sleep sanctuary, getting restorative sleep. You know, if you've had a great night's sleep, you can take on the world. So
very good point. Very good point.
I love it. And if you have a great meal cooked in a really nice kitchen, you can take on the world too.
You can take on the
world. or recover from that loss.
Favorite interior trend. Favorite interior trend that's happening right now, Michael.
Trend. Well, there's a trend that I'm following right now, and it's with kitchens. I actually talked about this on City Line once, is material choices that we have. Actually, this applies to tile as well, but material choices in kitchens are diversifying dramatically. It's not just a painted white kitchen that we have to do anymore. I mean, the materials that we have access to can create unique things, even the countertops, the way they're changing, and the colors they're coming out with. So that's really exciting for me. So I like discovering some of the new materials that are coming out to use them in the kitchen.
Cool. Oh, that's great.
For me, I'd say lighting. Lighting is I'm hearing a lot with regards to your circadian rhythm. Really important, adding natural lighting into your home, layered lighting. As you age, you need that, you know, your eye ages, so you need more lighting. I think lighting is for me one of the top things that I'm really excited about. It's you know, and there's so many different things that are happening in lighting, a lot of changes there. So that's
a good one. That's a good one.
Very good.
All right, when approaching a job, quality or quantity of square footage?
Quality.
For sure.
Yeah.
Did you?
Right.
Sorry.
No, it's great. No, I agree. Yeah,
100%.
That's awesome. What is the one thing that everyone should update in their home?
Oh my God, every room.
How do you limit
that? The one thing that everybody should update, I guess it's I want to say probably the bathroom.
Right.
If you haven't done it already, the bathroom. That curbless shower, just go for it.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great point.
Not related to today's conversation, but I think would be the color palette. That's the thing that affects your mood so much and how you feel about your home.
Great.
Yeah, so your color palette, every 2 or 3 years, just kind of breathe some new life into it.
And tell me it's not going to be gray. Tell me it's not going to be gray.
And super effective and easy to do, right? A coat of paint does amazing things.
Yeah.
You talked about obviously putting a curbless shower, significant work to do. Have you seen those bathtubs with the services will come, they'll cut out a part of the bathtub so you can step over it? What do we think of those? You like?
Fantastic.
No comment. No comment.
No. It's fantastic if that's what you can afford to do, right? Because
sure.
True.
Yeah. The curbless shower is a big venture. So if you just need accessibility under the tub, they're in and out. Cut it. You don't need a bathtub. They're a pain in the butt.
I got rid of mine. Everyone said to me, "Oh, it's going to affect the resale." You know what? I'm not worried about the resale.
Yeah.
I have to live here, so I got rid of mine. Yeah. We have no bathtub in this house. If I went into it, I couldn't get out of it.
So just to kind of elaborate, so in case people don't know, is that the company will come into your existing bathtub and they'll cut a hole in it, cut a hole in the wall, and they'll finish it. So now it's no longer usable as a bathtub.
That's right.
But you can now walk in and you have a walled shower, basically. So they convert you.
It's
really quick.
Overall pretty reasonable, and it's done
really
quickly, like you said. Yeah, so it's a good interim solution if you need that, for sure.
Accessibility.
Yeah.
All right, so obviously noise can be an issue when living in a multi-generational home. So what's the best way to control noise?
I put soundproofing a lot. When I'm doing basements, I soundproof it. It's at least the soundproofing installation. It's not 100% soundproof, but I put them in walls between bedrooms. If I talk to the
insulation do you use, Michael?
The Roxol.
The Roxol.
So it's quick, it's accessible, it's easy. I gently suggest it to between the master bedroom and the kids' bedroom. Let's put a little soundproofing in there, just because privacy. Last thing you want is conversations at night. So it's so inexpensive to do, and it's so effective. So at least a layer of soundproofing. I try to use it almost everywhere.
And it's also a fire retardant.
Yes, very good point.
Which is a big benefit. Yeah.
And if you can't do for any reason to that extent, we've got a tremendous amount of acoustic panels that are out there now that That's really true. Incorporate, we look to what they do in the commercial sector, and there's so many great products out there. But acoustics is big top of mind, and how are we addressing that within the home? But you're right, that could drive you crazy if you're trying to have quiet time and you've got either a rental or your family members the other side making a lot of noise.
All right, for the sake
of time,
video
games.
Yeah,
for the sake of time, we want to
video games.
We want to get to our participant questions, but before we do, one last rapid fire question is, what has this industry taught you? So if you could talk to your 18-year-old self about this industry, what would you tell yourself?
Collaboration. Collaboration. I think we need to start collaborating. Don't be afraid to collaborate. We used to always see it as competitive. I think we need each other. We need each other, Beautiful. Especially because of COVID.
Yes.
For me, it's find and latch on to a really trustworthy, good contractor, and don't let them go. Oh my gosh, because they affect my career dramatically. So really good work.
Yeah.
I got one for you if you need one, okay?
Yeah. Someone who sees your vision and actually helps you implement it, not tear it apart, right?
Exactly.
All right, Joelle, do we have some questions from our participants we get into? There is a bit of delay, so we'll let her get in. There we go. Okay.
We do, but I know that it's 4 now, so I didn't know if you wanted to wrap up before I get into that, just in case for anybody that does need to sign off.
All right, well, time does fly when you're having fun. And so what we're going to do is...
This was the fastest hour ever, honestly.
I really think it was, obviously.
And we didn't even scratch the surface.
I know.
We have so much more we could talk about.
I know.
All right, so obviously you want to get to all the questions of the participants, but for those who do have to go, we want to thank you for being here with us for this whole hour. We want to thank Michael, Linda, for participating with us here in the Design Conversations. And Michael, what's the best way to reach you, whether it's Instagram or a website?
Yeah, Instagram, website. Just remember, my name is spelled E-A-L. So as soon as you start typing Michael and you do E-A-L, you're probably gonna find me really quick. Most people spell it A-E-L. So Instagram, michaellambinteriors.ca, E-A-L, and you'll find me quickly.
All right, and Linda?
I think the easiest is on the livablecanada.com website. You can spell livable both ways, L-I-V-A-B-L-E, Canada.com. And many of you might know how crazy I am with LinkedIn. I'm absolutely love being on LinkedIn. You'll find me there. Request to be part of my community, and I'll accept. But just under my name, Linda Kafka, at LinkedIn. So.
And I just want to say also a special thanks to Joelle for being our moderator, to James Lopi, who's our production producer, and to Annie Bogovic on the HPG NextHome side, who's helping us coordinate all the media for that, and the team at NextHome, and which is now was HPG. So thank you guys for your help in getting these episodes going.
All right, Linda and Michael, if you'll indulge us, would you want to stick around for the 15 minutes and we'll run through some of these questions?
Sure.
Sound good?
Absolutely.
Sure. Love to.
All right, Joelle, fire away. What do we got?
All right, I'm going to share the results from our polls also. So for anybody that's still listening, I can let them know how everybody answered. So our first question was, this was the result. Are you currently or will be soon living?
Okay. Oh, we lost your voice.
Oh, lost your sound.
Yes.
So it looks like 16%.
23%.
Not surprising. Not surprising
now. So I'm sure that, and there's a few.
Oh, Joelle, we're losing your sound.
You're cutting in and out, Joelle.
I have both. That must be a busy house.
we lost your voice, Joelle.
Those numbers don't surprise me.
No.
As a matter of fact, it's when you look at adults that end up staying with their parents, the numbers are much higher for males if to stay with their parents as opposed to the females. So, and then the no part. Oh, sorry. Here we get the next one.
Have you or are you thinking about modifying your living space? Yes. Thinking about it, 32%.
Wow. Okay.
That's quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
25 that already
to the questions.
Okay.
So if I do cut out, Emmanuel and Yasmin, you're also able to see the questions being asked on the right panel of your panelist side. So
I see them there, yes.
Okay.
Perfect. So you if I do cut out, you can go through it, but hopefully I'll be okay.
Okay.
So we've got
see the questions.
That's okay. Suggestions for stairs and aging in place. Marnie asked a question. Are stair lifts the only option? Not sure we have the budget for an elevator.
Stair lifts seem to be one of the more popular ones, the popular option if you don't have the elevator. They're not, I personally would rather have the elevator, but the stair lift is really about the only thing that you can do. I mean, there's a lot of European products that are being developed now, but they haven't come over into the North American market. So I think that's what you're looking at, elevator or stair lift, one of those two.
Okay, great, thank you. And then I've got, Matt was asking, what industry credentials should we look out for when choosing a designer for a bathroom, say a bathroom redesign? And I know this one is a little bit difficult to answer, but what is the cost range for a design, not build consult? So maybe keeping in mind, obviously that there's there can be a big price range there.
So do they mean, do you mean like just creating the design of the floor plan and doing all the specifications?
So there's two parts to the question.
What you mean?
Yes, there's two parts to the question. One is what credentials should someone look out for when choosing a designer? And when it comes to just paying for the consultation on the design, not the actual build at all, just the design part, what type of range should somebody be looking at from somebody who obviously is a reputable person with the right credentials?
Right.
So that's a tough question because I would be quick to say you'd be looking for a designer. You'd probably want somebody that has gone through some kind of formal training of interior design. However, there are numerous professionals in Toronto that have not necessarily gone through the schooling, but have the skill set because of the years that they've been working. So it's tough I wouldn't necessarily say just look for the credentials. I think you're going to look at several factors besides the credentials. You're going to look at the years in business. You're going to look at the kinds of projects that they do. If they have an interest or knowledge in aging in place, living in place, I think that adds value. So,
essential, actually.
Yeah. So it's a tough one because we do have some really good professionals that haven't, I know of a couple off the top of my head that 30 years in the business and they're amazing at what they do. And
word of mouth on that kind of stuff is pretty good to do it.
Yeah.
You're going to look at portfolio. I totally want to echo what Linda said. I wouldn't even get caught up because that doesn't suggest they're any good, right? Or they've done it. So once you look at the portfolio, you think they're in line with what you want, then you have to have a conversation with them. And kind of to my point before, if it's just a design thing, it's one thing. If they're actually handling your project, then their team is so important, right?
Yes.
So they could be great designer and their team may not be good and your project's going to flop. So understanding what you want from them, your needs from them, and then you have to look at how deep you go. But you're really going to have to just word of mouth.
But I think just let me just add as well to that, because you're both making excellent points. But it's if you're looking at updating a home because you want to stay there as you age, as you get older, you want to make sure that someone has that experience behind them, because we actually get a lot of phone calls after they read articles or they see this program and they say, you know, we just redid our whole house, but we didn't, and now my husband needs support, and what should we do? Okay, because nobody told them. They made it beautiful, but they didn't put the infrastructure to support, you know, what they're going to need moving forward. So people don't know what they don't know.
Yeah, and there is certification for aging in place. Yasmin, you're CAP certified. I'm CAP certified. There's also CLIP, that's a certified living in place professional. So there is certification that takes you above and beyond what you learned in school or what you've been learning on the job, that really addresses people that have progressive conditions, people that, you know, because you don't know what you don't know and you don't know what it's going to bring you, but you just know you are getting older. You might already start to feel the aches and pains. And so somebody that's got that certification certainly can add value to the job or to the team. But I also wanted to say just to add to what Michael said earlier, is that you might have a principal of the firm that isn't necessary or isn't a registered interior designer, but they might have somebody working on their team.
Sorry,
so
look at
the team, because the team is really important too.
It's a little over an hour. Yeah, it's okay. Don't worry about it. No, it's okay. I didn't mean to.
Well, we can hear you.
We can hear you well.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Okay, do we have any more questions, or how are we doing on time here? We can just go on. We're just scratching the surface, like Linda said. We should do a whole series just on this topic.
So for I do have a question, Linda and Michael, for interior designers out there who may not be familiar with Section 3 for the code. What's the best place for people to find perhaps an abbreviated Coles Note version of all this information?
So what I can tell you is there is somebody in the industry right now that's about to launch an app for the building code, and I think that's brilliant. I thought that's fantastic. It's not out there. I think it's coming in August, and so you literally be able to just type in what you're looking for, and this app will bring it up for you. Otherwise, there are professionals that have their BCIN number. That's your building code. They've gone through that, and you know, if they're part of a team, they can certainly help you if you're trades. I don't know, Michael, how do you do it? It's that big, thick book with lots of sticky notes in it that you're referencing all the time.
I realize
online.
I'm just specifically referring to, you know, proper locations for grab bars, proper reinforcements behind the wall, stuff like that. Is there a shortcut to find that kind of information?
It's in Section 9 of the building code. Accessibility is not really addressed to the extent it is obviously in the commercial world. So it's a lot more challenging, and that's why you know, we're seeing more and more of these discussions happening to help each other, because it is not, there are certain things that you have to do, but for most part, you know, those wider, you know, there's not enough in there. Access into the house, the wider hallways, the wider doors, it just doesn't align with the commercial world. So we're really
even something simple like reinforcing hallways. You know, you don't think about it, but you could actually reinforce the hallways for future grab bars or handrails along the side. And you can incorporate that even with your kitchen design or your hallway. There's so many things that you learn along the way that someone who's investing the funds to update their home can take advantage of, to make it a forever place for them to stay.
Yeah, a lot of it is just doing it right. It's best practices, and so you know, it's not driven by the code. Accessibility in the residential sector is not driven by any
That's
code.
what I was just going to say. I was going to say this really is a can-do situation, not a must-do situation right now. You know, I feel like it's one of the situations where when it turns into a must-do situation, there's going to be a huge impact on a lot of people who, from a design perspective, are going to feel handcuffed in what they have to do. design-wise, right? So, you know,
but
you're living.
But it's changing. It's changing. You know, the National Building Code is changing. If you look to Australia and see what they're doing there, every home is livable in Australia, and it was mandated through the building code there. It's, you know, it's not going to happen for several years here, but if you want that to be your forever home, then you do the right thing, you know, and think about or work with a team or hire those professionals so you can stay in place. Because look at the alternative, you know, $6,000 a month in a senior's home.
Sure.
That's like, you know, who wants to spend that kind of money? Especially after what we've just gone through with COVID.
Yeah, what I hear here is a couple different conversations happening at the same time, right? What's the impact of building a house solely for resale value? What's an impact of building a house solely so you can say that multi-generationally? How do you live in a city like Toronto where you're constantly having increasing costs for that housing goes up and up and up. And at the same time too, you're seeing the sizes of bachelor apartments get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So how do you say, okay, we need bathrooms to be X size when we're allowing major units to get to a certain size? So there are some things that happen that go up and down as a give and take, and it sounds like it's an ongoing conversation that needs to keep on going for sure.
Yes, and that's why we need to keep on talking about it. That's why it's a design
Joelle, were there any more questions?
No, I think you guys kind of went over everything that everybody was asking.
Amazing. So all right. Now, just for everyone who is still on the call, I know there are many who are on here still, just to remind you that there are some handouts available that were given to us by Linda and Michael that you can grab as well and download. So by all means, jump into those. And I think we're 4:13. We're at that point. Anything else? Does anyone have any last words?
It's an ongoing conversation, and you know, and so you know, that's launching Canada's first conference, Livable Environment Conference, is addressing this. And I know you have a lot of consumers that might be listening, and normally it would be a trade only, but because it's virtual, we'll have that opportunity for the consumers to come into it. But this is not just a conversation here in this small group. This is a conversation in Toronto, in Ontario, right across Canada. It's a global conversation that's happening out there, and I think it's really important. At some point, it will affect you, and it's, you know, you need to at least bring yourself up to speed with some of the things that are being talked about. I think it's really important. You know, like I said earlier, we need our spaces to be designed not from an aesthetic perspective, but from a functional perspective. And you know, and the trades really have a big responsibility in that, and so do the consumers. So, you know, I think my parting words are, you know, we need to stop designing from purely an aesthetic perspective and start to think about us, the humans, and none of us are Leonardo da Vinci's, you know, the perfect man. We're all different from our physical being, our cognitive. You know, we all have 1 in 5 Canadians has challenges with activities of daily living. This is a disability. My reading glasses are a disability. So I think we just need to be cognizant of all of this, and really how do we change our environments so that they function better for us, and then leave that, you know, and then when we leave those environments or those homes, we leave it for the next person to enjoy. Michael, you're doing good things building them that way.
Thank you. And I think, and it's a learning process for me, and it's coming from conversations. So I think going back to the picking your design professional, be encouraged to if you're working with someone who's having these conversations, like who's physically walking through a space and talking about future and present. So be encouraged that these are conversations that they're talking about, and if they're not, then you make sure that you're talking about it, because again, we're not designing for today, we're designing for the pre-sale, like that. And then you guys are going to learn and grow together, and maybe that might be between the two of you deciding, let's bring someone on who's going to do a consultation just on this and whatever your particular needs are. But that has to be a conversation between the two of you, and if you have that conversation, that's someone you're going to work with.
That's great. That's a wonderful way to conclude our session today. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, Michael.
Other than someone who just wants to come in and put their imprint on your space, I mean, that's no longer the goal. Like I said, we're going to make it look good. Don't worry about that. Let's just kind of work together and make it good.
Yeah, that's the old way. That's passé. People don't want that anymore. Just come in and buy that look. I want to buy that look. Oh my God, that's not.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I tell my clients all the time, I'm of service to you. That's how this works. I'm of service to you.
You know, the lucky thing is that there's a lot of opportunity between lighting, finishes, colors, textures, technology, all kinds of products and professionals out there that can make your home feel safe and livable, no matter who you are, no matter who's coming to visit you. So if you are going to be doing some updates to your home, before you spend the money, think it through and make some good choices so you can enjoy your home the most.
Great advice.
All right, so to everyone here, I just want to throw one thing out there. The cool thing about Toronto is that from a multi-generational perspective, and this is a little selfish plug, but upcoming episodes, laneway development, it's awesome opportunities for multi-generational living, how to have the in-laws or maybe the kids closer, but not in the same home. Anyway, we'll get to that later on in future episodes. From the team here at Design Conversations, we want to say a huge thank you to Linda and Michael. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing with us all of your information. It's always a pleasure to have design conversations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys.
Bye.